What's up, everyone? You're listening to the latest episode of the Ear Coffee podcast. We are here at the end of the year, not trying to rhyme, but we're here nevertheless. I'm Wes, and I'm joined by the one and only
Joe Keyport, the other half of Ear Coffee.
I wasn't sure what their answer was going to be because I still didn't know their name until right now.
We've been doing this for almost 6 years, or over 6 years.
Over 6 years, and we just met.
We did, yeah.
That's true love. All right, yeah. Anyways, we are here to talk about some of our favorite records, releases, singles, EPs, all of the kinds of beautiful music that we've been able to listen to this year. Just spotlight a few of our favorites, and then shout out some other releases that we would talk about if we had more time and had more listening capacity this year. Because I think we've talked about throughout the year just how both of us have listened to less music.
Yeah.
And how it's just been more of a struggle.
We've definitely expanded our projects, like personally within the local and somewhat together within the local scene. So it becomes one of those things where it's a grind and you don't want it to become a job.
Yeah.
But also to do stuff like this for 6 years, it becomes a little bit of a job.
Yeah. I can't even imagine listening to the amount of just local music we were listening to in like 2019, 2020. Because I'm like, yeah, I listened to like 3 albums this year. And we're talking about one of them. But yeah, we like to do this every year and just kind of share some attention and give a spotlight on some of our pals, some of our favorite local musicians that we've had the pleasure of working with or not this year, and just wanted to appreciate the songs, man.
Exactly. We have a couple announcements. We'll save those for the end. So we'll give you an excuse to cut to watch the whole thing or listen to the whole thing. We're videoing this for the people listening on the podcast.
Yeah, we should let them know that they are now excluded from something. If you want to feel included, go to YouTube. I'm usually not I'm not pro Google really anymore, despite the fact that I have a Google phone and I use Gmail. And
I mean, I can't talk. I have all Apple stuff.
My life has been possessed by this horrible thing.
I'm anti-big tech
mostly. We're sponsored by Google.
And Raytheon.
That's enough out of us. Do you want to get started?
I should start with any disclaimer here, which is another Heaven record that comes out is always going to make a list. It's one of my favorite local bands, and Heaven Sent is no different. It's definitely one of my favorite Another Heaven releases. I think I say that with everyone, but I will definitely
they keep getting better. That's the thing.
And we'll talk a little bit more about how this is kind of a post-hardcore influenced record a little later in my notes here. This showcases the expanded lineup here on record. I know when I saw them in like April of 2022, they had Christian, who's of Sirac, on second guitar. But going into this record, we kind of find ourselves back into the black-pilled vision of kind of the post-American existence we find ourselves in. The empire is falling, and we're
constant decay.
And this is what kind of allows the band and us to really indulge in that nature without getting lost in kind of the woe is me of it all. I think it's not a great way to describe it, but it's kind of
it's not asking for pity, but it's
the apathy.
It's still yes.
That's
not looking
kind
for
of the
apathy.
word.
It's not looking for pity, but it's acknowledging the kind of situation we find ourselves in.
Yeah, and so the track of this EP or this record, excuse me, that I kind of really feel showcases a lot of what we find on Heaven Sent. It's also the first single, which makes it probably more of a lazy comparison. But Arab Stardust is
the lead single for a reason. They want to make those connections.
But I think it really is the one that kind of isn't the thesis of the record, but kind of ties in all of the elements we find across this record. You know, all these lyrics are really biting and really showcases his tendencies into not being really unapologetic about what he's going to say. You know, the lyrics open with this line that kind of you find across how he formulates the verses of the God blesses the lions for those who stand by with while fires rage. I know that it's true, but I still don't like you. And kind of that later in the second verse, it's the God blesses the tired with more suffering. And it's this, how quickly that twists when it comes to what the actual meaning is here. It starts off with this like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, and then you're like, oh, okay, here's
God blesses with suffering.
Yeah,
that's a good use of like some irony, and it's all too relatable.
Yeah, exactly. The album really kind of moves between hooks and bursts of cacophony fuzz, and kind of again plays more into the post hardcore part of it here, where you have the hooks, you have the fun parts, and then there's these shimmery reverbs over walls of sound with Aaron LeMay, the drummer's kind of calculated drumming, where it keeps it all held together. It's really easy, I feel like, especially in the B side of the record, where we have these more expanded instrumental pieces that you could be overindulgent and really let the tracks get away from you, as you jam out on a couple of chords, or just the walls of sound with the whammy bar going up and down and just the warbling nature. But they really work hard to keep it contained. And it's sometimes, as someone who learned a lot of these songs live, whether it was here in the basement or, seeing them live a couple of times, they're much more down-tempo on record than you expect.
Yeah.
And so it plods along.
They're very fierce live.
They are very fierce. And it's not like the down-tempo takes away from anything. It's a much more calculated and measured approach that you don't expect. Kind of gives the vibes of like Hum or Dinosaur Jr. with their nature of having that alt rock 90s alt rock sensibility, but then blasting into the sludge part of their sludge gaze adopted
sense
moniker.
Of melody, but also they get lost in the noise.
Exactly. And I think that's what really sets this record apart for me when listening to other kind of heavy music of that same genre, is how much they lean on what they decide to show and what they decide to hold back, or even live when they decide to let it go, or decide to reel it in. It's a well-oiled rig.
It's very intentional.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think Heaven Sent is a record you shouldn't miss in 2023.
Absolutely. No, they were a blessing to have here in the basement. Absolutely knocked my socks off. I think, how many songs did they do? 3 or 4?
They did 3.
3. They knocked my socks off 3 separate times. I kept on having to go get my socks.
Plus one that hasn't been released yet.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
So I have unreleased socks on. So that's fantastic.
Those unreleased socks.
Definitely check that record out.
What's your first pick?
Yeah, this is a bit unsurprising. I can't shut up about this record on Twitter, so I'm sorry. I'm not. But
we're unapologetically fans.
Unapologetically fans. That's a good, absolutely. First record I want to talk about is came out in May of this year. The Kate Mlanafe's, I think it is technically first album.
Yeah, first full length.
Rock. The album is called Rock, and it's got this beautiful cover.
This is the first
they designed themselves, but they've had EPs and singles in the past, and these songs have been in the works for a very long time and have had several manifestations, and they all finally come to fruition on this record. It really crafts their songs into these with a strong sense of place. They've always had a distinct kind of sound and a distinct sense of how they kind of make music in any of their projects. Because as we both know, Kate is in several different bands, including their own solo project, which is here what we're talking about. But they create songs that they don't quite have like a personal character, where it's like a narrator, but the songs themselves are the characters, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like these songs kind of are very drifting, very varied. I don't know. There's so many different adjectives you can just throw at it because it's so singular. And it's kind of indescribable in some ways, just in terms of how can one use words to describe music when the music already speaks for itself.
Yeah,
I suppose. So that's my disclaimer. Just listen to it.
Isn't that your job to put music to?
Yeah. Why do you think I stopped
words to
writing?
Songs that?
No, the reason why my brain doesn't work as far as like reviewing or writing about music anymore is because it's like, dude, if it rocks, it rocks. Sorry.
No one wants to read shit rocks. After clicking a web link.
Yeah, exactly. They are not paying for that. Yeah, but I think it is, as a first album, it's still been a long time coming because, like I was saying, these songs have been in the works since at least I think 2020, if not more, and they've existed in some capacity, but now they've really come to fruition with a full instrumentation. Kate's been playing live with a band for I think at least a year or two now, beyond just playing solo. Obviously with keyboard being their primary instrument, but this album introduces a lot more guitar and there's a rhythm section, drum and bass, and they play some cello, and there's just so many augmentations that really set the album apart from what could be a more still compositionally beautiful, like piano-based singer-songwriter record. They are not content to just have their songs sit within that space, but they have to travel around and cover so much ground. It's a very beleaguered kind of, to use another tired album, but it still grasps a little bit of hope. It feels very mid-20s. I don't know. Maybe that's just because a lot of the kind of emotional turmoil and uncertainty is relatable to I think anyone in their mid-20s. So maybe I'm just projecting.
It's that you left college, you're supposed to be an adult now, but
and are the relationships you've poured your time and life into really sustainable? Like, is it all worth it?
This job I just got is not what they told me in high school.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Not again. That's a little bit more projecting.
Yes,
but it really fully establishes and their songwriting voice in a way where I can almost say like, oh, that feels like what a Kate song could be.
Yeah,
and but it also completely upends that and destroys kind of the preconception of what one of their songs sound like. Because I think their previous EP, Soak, which was a collaboration, a very collaborative record as well, thought a very distinct, but it had a very consistent sound. Like the songs on that record all felt of a piece.
Is that a Caleb Hins produced record?
Yeah. That was a record that they did with Caleb. And that had a very distinct sound, but it was thorough.
Yeah.
Whereas with rock, each song is just might even have 2 or 3 sections that are different. Like there are songs that start out as like piano ballads and end up almost just like kind of like disco-y, like dance rock. Before going to like a noisy shoegaze outro, kind of just covering all this ground. Every song is my favorite. I love this album is one of the notes I wrote because I have nothing else to say. It blows me away every single time I listen to it. Steven and the Mouse is one of my favorite tracks. Tomorrow came out I think years ago and has been one of the older songs on the record, and it's still one of my favorites. It was recorded by local superhero. By local I mean Cannon Falls superhero Abe Anderson. They're going to pop up on this, at least on my list, several times. Yeah, and it's just like, oh well, of course Abe recorded this because they record
almost everybody in the scene.
But also just want to give shout outs to the other collaborators on this record. Al Norman of Bugsy fame and many other projects has been drumming with this band on this record. Josie Villano played guitar on this record. Henry Breen did a lot of the production as well. And just this small group of people just really made this super dynamic and planetary record. It's really indescribable. That'll wrap up my ramble. Check it out, you fool. What's your next record?
Yeah. I want to talk about this is definitely, if I was going to put one at number 1, we don't rank them usually because that's just kind of annoying and causes unnecessary discourse on Twitter for no reason.
Yeah.
But if I was going to have like a top spot, I think Molly Brandt's debut record, Surrender to the Night, would sit there. And I can't, I will have to, like, again, it's like the asterisk. I like to put everything in context to it, which is I come from a country station that I just left after 5 years. I had an unnecessary urge to just give the camera a finger. I mostly enjoyed my time there. But Surrender to the Night is one of my faves from this year, just because it does what country music does so well and why it's so popular. We leave out the Morgan Wallen and the Jason Aldean industry bullshit that comes out of Nashville, but it's a genre full of storytellers, and this record is full of stories.
Yeah.
You know, the opener, which is Bluff Country Paradise, is an ode to literally the driftless region of the states, like the Winona area, for people who don't know where the driftless part of Minnesota is. There's nods to like the Eagles Club and local favorites where you just kind of go pop down on a Tuesday to get your sense of culture for the week. Give yourself a distraction.
Yeah.
You have like Old Northern Woman, which is kind of, if you're from the northern part of the state, or even like from the more rural parts of Minnesota, like my family is from, you hear these tales of people who have done it despite not weird, but like intensive Dust Bowl type issues and hard lives, like there. And that's Old Northern Woman, which is probably my favorite song from the record. You even kind of lean more into the fiery pop country ballads, and even like those pop country murder ballads of the 2000s that came from places like Miranda Lambert and Blake Shelton and Montgomery Gentry and Carrie Underwood. I didn't want to like just list off all female country artists because that's a really lame thing, that country music hates women for some reason. Look up Tomato Gate.
Oh God.
But
I don't even know what that is.
But like songs like Propane and Cigarettes, which really fit into that kind of fiery 2000s country songs that are more rock music than like a country song.
Yeah, it's fully gone electric.
And not saying that that's where it fully leads. There's something for everyone within the country genre. Americana, which is
something for everyone on this album.
It
really does kind of cover all those bases.
You have your Americana, you have your juke joint outlaw tunes, you have your folky singer-songwriter. You know, plus it all ends with that Lucinda Williams cover of Minneapolis, which it kind of paints that local tie to it. And I don't know if you've ever listened to a ton of local country music, Wes.
Not outside of what you've kind of recommended to me or the folks we've had on the podcast.
That's fair. With Midwest country music, I find it really hit or miss, just because of it's either like they're trying to be the Nashville guy, so they're not writing tunes that represent where we're from. And there is some part of like the Leo DiCaprio meme of like the pointing at the TV. Like, I see myself. That's why I like this record.
Yeah.
But Surrender to the Night just is so authentically Midwest and so authentically Molly that I think is what makes it such a standout release from 2023. So
double that.
As you can tell, I've listened to this record a lot and have a lot of opinions.
Yeah, no, in case you couldn't tell, we each listened to like one album this
year. And mine was Surrender to the Night by Molly Brandt.
So I always feel like I need to include a slight disclaimer because of how biased I am in favor of this band whenever I talk about them. Big fans of them as musicians, big fans of them as songwriters, big fans of them as people. Unsurprisingly, you're going to be seeing Bugsy on the in the next spot. They put out their long-awaited, I could say it's been 3 years since they've put out more than singles. It's their new EP. Now I Spend All of My Time Alone. Just last month, and it's still, I can't imagine how it feels for the band to finally have music out and have these songs out. Because even these songs have been in the works for quite some time, and they have come together. They still came together very quickly. That's the thing. When a Bugsy song connects, it's like the elements are maybe hovering there, and there's a little bit of uncertainty, but then they'll all hit their stride and just surge together, and it just is such a unified force of music, and it really sets them apart as not just a band that has put out a lot of really great singles and is great to see live, but it really lets their songwriting and their distinct style and how potent and powerful it can be speak for itself and just blows you away. It's came out of the ashes of a completed album that they, or at least nearly completed, that they abandoned in favor of these new songs. And for a lot of reasons, that was their decision. And we
love scrapping a project.
We love scrapping a project, and
for whatever reason.
And
obviously.
Obviously, mad respect to anyone that has the ability to kind of do that and take that step and make something so wonderful. Just immediately following that. It's really another example of a songwriter and a band kind of coming into their own, like I was kind of talking about with Kate's album, where you get a sense of what it's not just like, oh, this song sounds like. Like this song sounds like a Bugsy song. and like and there are others now you can hear that in other music, and
Yeah.
like even if it's a band that's an influence or a songwriter that's an influence, it goes forward and backwards. You just hear that distinction, and it really sets itself apart. It's the overwhelming minutia of kind of these daily moments where whether it's a small spark of joy and something like a nice surprise, or a really horrible day where you just you really want to drink and forget, as you do. But it's all these tiny moments that are blown up to the kind of the size that when you're in the moment, that's how big they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start looking back in hindsight, you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. But when it's in the heat, when you're in the midst of it, it feels so life shaking.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20.
And something just kind of so mundane or specific, and how that kind of thing can just pierce you anyways, and become something that won't leave your mind until you write a song about it. The instrumentation is so balanced and focused. I know I keep on saying that word, but everything's perfectly placed, whether it's the vocal harmonies or when one guitar comes ahead of the other and there's like a lead melody, or when everything drops out and it's just vocals and there's a lot of space. It's all so compositional, and that's not because I can't imagine the band was sitting there just writing out sheet music, and that's why everything is so precise. They're just such a unified band that they can just do that, and that's what happens when you play together for 3 years, you tour together for 3 years.
And I'm assuming a lot of these songs have been songs that on regular set lists since pre-pandemic, maybe.
I couldn't say, but for at least quite some time. But
yeah,
that practice and the perhaps it feels a bit tribe to say, wow, a band that plays together and practices a lot gets better.
Yeah,
nuts. But it really shows itself on this EP, and I can't recommend it enough. It's another record that's recorded by Abe, so shouts out. This is Abe is like the MVP of a lot of these releases. But I'm sure you've listened to Bugsy. If you've listened to this, if you haven't, what are you doing? Pause this. Go just listen.
Finish this, then listen to Bugsy.
Okay, fair.
We need our stream counts.
We do, but also
we're going to get sponsored by places like. I couldn't think of a good joke.
Yeah, me neither.
I was going to say, never mind.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So yeah, if you haven't already, somehow, if you've managed to avoid listening to Bugsy, what are you doing with your life?
That's impressive, honestly.
Yeah,
I would like to give you a handshake for avoiding listening to Bugsy.
No, we don't want to condone that. But just get on it.
You should, but I think at this point,
this bit isn't funnier.
Bugsy's all encompassing. Bugsy is life.
Oh, Jesus. If you haven't listened to the CP, if you haven't heard this band, I don't really know what you're doing with your life. You should probably fix that ASAP. But their newest EP is phenomenal, and I highly recommend it. What is your last release you want to talk about a little bit more in depth here?
Yeah, so I don't have a ton of things to write on. I forget how early in the year this one was released, which is Double Grave's Till the Ground. It's one of 2 releases they put out this year through Disposable America.
Yeah.
One that I will think that I'm special because I got an early copy. Disposable America sent me one like a week before the album was released, which shouts out. How did they know? But at least the first half of this record is the band returning to their sludgier state following 2020's Goodbye Nowhere, as well as the Animal and Actor inspired EPs from 2021,
as well as the tapes if you have them.
Yes.
If you need one, I have 2.
So volume. Why did I write that? Oh, I know what I was saying. So how sludgy this record is, definitely more front loaded on it.
Yeah, you kind of the heaviness is up front.
Yeah. So on this release, Jer's songwriting kind of mellows and kind of turns into what you expected from if you listen to Chrysanthemum or Echinacea from 2021. One of the songs that I kind of will point to, which is In Wisconsin, has that kind of sentimentality wrapped in kind of that blanket of fuzzy goodness. That's on the second half of this record. And kind of even at their most abrasive when it comes to songs like Heavy or Feeling Dumb, Everything is familiar and still comforting. And I know Goodbye Nowhere had that kind of, it feels like a blanket, that duvet you've pulled over your head to just kind of feel warm and at home for the time being.
Yeah. And kind of abandon all the thoughts of your discontent.
Which kind of makes Double Grave, in my opinion, that best kept secret that has a Pitchfork review.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like people don't talk enough about this band, which is probably me just not realizing how prominent they were and still are. And I think some of that is also by design. They've been on hiatus since like 2022 officially. And Jer has been playing with scrunchies for a long time now. So this project has definitely become, I think, a place of more personal creative outlets and how like sentimental you find on songs on this record. I haven't really listened to the one they put out in November of this year, which is, as we check the Spotify, What Else? I haven't sat and spent any time with that release yet. But I think Till the Ground is one of those releases that if you're missing kind of the earlier stuff where you want that grit and abrasiveness followed by the more singer-songwritery aspects of it.
It covers
it's the full breadth of the band.
The full breadth of the band.
Yeah, so
that's a good way of putting
it. Yeah, you should check out Till the Ground. It's a good one. You can get your tape on Disposable America. I recommend it.
Yeah. Check out the new one too. Well, hopefully, it came out in October? November. Well, November, December, it'll be a good winter record.
I agree.
Spend some time with both of these.
Pretty much all of the tunes Double Grave makes are like good winter records, kind of that desolate America where you kind of, or desolate Midwestern and desolate Minnesota.
I still think Goodbye Nowhere is a great summer record.
That's fair.
Now we're getting into the minutia.
We're gonna get into it. Like New Year's Daydream is definitely like their winter record, but that's a whole conversation we can save for a separate podcast in the future.
That no one needs to hear. So the final, it's not really an album. It's more like I'm just gonna talk about one artist.
Yeah.
Another MVP. A lot of bands have just been prolific as hell this year. It feels like, whether it's even just putting out like 2 EPs, 2 albums, a ton of singles. Like it feels like a lot of bands have been putting in a lot of work, and I feel like no one is busier than Anita Velveeta.
Yes.
I don't
like 1,000 times. Yes.
And do they sleep? I don't know.
She's already like on another tour, and she's been on like 10 this year.
Yeah.
Or like planning another tour anyway. I don't know. I don't pay attention
next month. I
don't pay attention to Twitter.
It's hard to keep track of because you're never quite sure. She could just be on tour, or at least on the road, but she's probably still releasing an album, and that's why we're talking about today, because she's put out 3 albums this year. Western Amphibians was the first record. Came out in March of this year.
You can get vinyl copies of that now, right?
Yeah, I think there's still vinyl left.
Handful. They're like
really cool, limited pressing. I think there's like a couple copies left. Check it out. But no, that's what I call Nightcore, which, unsurprisingly, is a Nightcore kind of remix, mashup record that they put out on 420 in April. And while that record is certainly less serious, and it doesn't feature a lot of like Anita's kind of distinct songwriting, it still shows, and use this phrase, the full breadth of her just ability as a musician and the taste of what she listens to and that she is able to dive into and create.
Yeah.
And as of now, she's launched a whole separate project for her more electronic music on Mother 3K. And whether this EP would have been a Mother 3K project if it came out now or not, who knows? But it's still out there, fortunately, for anyone who wants to kind of have a dose of sugar and kind of beautiful sampledelic majesty. It's a real wild ride. It's a very good time. But Western Amphibians from March, and then I Saw the Devil in Portland, Oregon. I Saw the Devil in Portland, Oregon, which came out in September, are the 2, I guess, first and foremost releases I would say for her discography this year. I Saw the Devil is still very fresh in a lot of people's minds. It has kind of the song of the summer, "Turfs Will Not Get Into Heaven," which is just true. They won't.
Fix your hearts or die.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's showcases so much of that energy and that immersion in more hardcore influences and just punk. Like everything they've done could be qualified under the umbrella of punk, whether they're making like noisy jazz rock or even like kind of like folk punk, country punk, like in like cowpunk.
That's what it is. Country
like
punk.
Like Western Amphibians especially is going to be the record.
The Sonic Chameleon record.
Yeah. It also is a record that has Sonic Sona on there, I believe. But that record is the one where you'll get that dash of outlaw country. You'll get kind of a dose of everything. Still some of that their vocal experimentation with vocal processing that they have abandoned. That sounds weird because it's Western Amphibians is a record you want to go to if you're looking for like you were saying, a really chameleonic record where it covers so many different elements and just kind of puts her weird twisted.
It has her hardcore. It has her
spin,
electronic. It has
the Willie Nelson songs. It has the beautiful trans love songs. It has the trans rage songs. And really, despite the beautiful frog cowboy on the cover, it is not fully a frog cowboy record, though it does have those elements. And if you're looking for kind of the opposite end of that, where it's a more focused dive into kind of pure emotion, it's very visceral, very intense. Songs kind of have this lightning-like element where it feels like each one is just kind of cast out of nowhere and kind of strikes you as you're listening to it. And no matter what that emotion is, it could be another. They're just more focused expressions. They're less broad and welcoming. It's more intense and focused and angry sometimes. And sometimes that is anger at horrible people. Sometimes it's anger at the self. Sometimes that's anger at the world we've been stuck in since the day we first woke up. It's a lot of there's still a lot of whimsy in spite of that, though. It's acknowledging, like kind of like you were saying with Arab Stardust, it's Heaven Sent. Excuse me, Jesus, cut that. With Heaven Sent, it's a record that kind of looks doom in the face and kind of makes a joke or makes like a comment and kind of like rolls their eyes almost.
It was like that interview.
This horrible doom and like this end times that's coming at us. It's
like that when I interviewed Another Heaven. They're like, we're all nice, fun people. We just make really bleak music sometimes.
Like it and that sense of like humor still really comes through there. And whether it's even just in just the kind of Jackson Pollock scatter just all over the place, but still so layered approach they have to their music making and their different projects. You can't not shout out Anita for the year she's had. And by the time this episode comes out, she might have already put out another EP or album. I think there's already like a B-sides EP on Bandcamp. If you weren't getting enough out of I Saw the Devil. But check out just any of the music she's put out this year. It's going to be some kind of beautiful adventure. I can guarantee that. That about does it for.
Normally we do 5. We only had 3.
Could have come up with more. Sorry, guys.
We just haven't spent time.
We just have not had time. But that's why we at least made time, and we're making time for some shout outs. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. I'll start out with the Symptones self-titled record. It kind of shows the band softening a little bit from their more Americana-y. I described their first record as just kind of that all-American record, kind of that Bruce Springsteen, that John Mellencamp. And now they've kind of leaned into a softer, more personal sounding release with their self-titled release. So you should go check that one out.
I want to take a second to shout out the Fend EP from this year, True Sequel. It's great to have these songs in a way I can listen to them after hearing them live for so long.
Yes.
It just continues to show their cohesion as a band and their growth as songwriters. And I can't wait for what they do next.
We always have the fact that we drove to North Dakota to see their second ever show.
And we'd already seen their first ever show.
Had we?
Did we?
I don't remember seeing their first.
I think we did.
Maybe you did.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, shout out.
Next record is Products with their some sudden weather. The tequila I've been drinking all episode is starting to hit me. The bottle is gone. Fantastic. You can never go wrong with Products. We got to play with them at Midwest Music Fest. Yeah. Fantastic record. Go check them out. They've gotten a ton of love with this one, and it's well deserved.
It's well deserved. I want to shout out both EPs from the band Silo. They put out Painting with the Sun in February, and they just put out another new EP, Transit, which I think improves on the first EP in quite a great deal. Not that the first EP was fantastic, and I enjoyed it a lot. It really grew on me. But this record, the newest EP, after even only one listen, it's already kind of stuck with me, and shows that they're just getting better and better. So we're going to keep saying that. But a lot of these releases, are first or second EPs, so you're seeing bands starting to really come into their own, even just by a second release. And that I feel like that's kind of a common. It's like the opposite of the sophomore slump. It's like it's a sophomore growth.
Yes,
that's not.
I think 2023 is the year of like bands understanding their sound and like
putting out great second releases.
Yeah, it's not like it's just first record part 2.
Or first record with diminishing returns. This is actually really new and different and really cool.
Yes, exactly.
And that keeps happening with so many bands, among them being Silo and some of the other ones we've talked about. What's your next one?
I want to talk about Prathloons live at the Bronze from August 4th, which I believe was their recorded here locally before they moved on. Colin has moved to Chicago. I love Prathloons. They're one of my favorite local. They're the Kansas Wind, which was the record they put out last year. You should check that out. But one of the reasons I learned their existence was their live series. They do a live Loons, and this is another installment on that. And it kind of gives you that like intimate look into the band through every kind of awkward between song banter piece to songs you haven't heard yet to old songs. I bet there's going to be songs on this we hear later on forthcoming releases. So check out Live Loons at the Bronze.
I want to mention Falcon Arrow with their latest record, Patterns in Noise. Every record I've listened to from Falcon Arrow certainly scratches that same itch. Really technical, beautifully composed, very dense. Prog post-rock instrumental music.
Which is crazy because they're a two-piece.
They're a two-piece.
And it's drums and bass,
drums
not
and
even
bass,
guitar.
Yeah. And they just cover so much ground with that. And this is another installment in just a series of great proggy instrumental records. And it's been a fun one to return to.
Yeah. My next shout-out will be Out for Blood's Blood for All. If you love some Minneapolis hardcore, check out Out for Blood.
Yeah, simple as that.
I'm not gonna wax poetic about hardcore.
Yeah, I want to shout out Larry Wish's Capricorn Sun. It's his like 30th record or something. It's so many, but it's a very fun one. It's very quirky, musically omnivorous album, and I recommend it as well.
Yeah, we'll move on. Filthy Kittens, Trouble in Mayberry. That came out earlier this year, which I thought was last year, but it's crazy to think
January,
of
February.
Yeah, how I think how long this year and short this year has been. But if you love some, like all American rock music, that feeling of hometown, check out Trouble in Mayberry, Filthy Kittens.
The next record I want to talk about is 12 Rod's comeback record, If We Stay Alive, came out this summer. The first music we've gotten from the band in 20 years, but close to. It's been quite some time. And there are songs that have been in the demos folder for quite some time, but now they've been fleshed out and really worked into a really exciting kind of comeback for the band. For all you old heads out there, probably you don't want to miss this.
Yeah. I wanted to shout out Wanderer's Indulgence of the Unreal. If you love some like beat down kind of sludgy hardcore, check that one out. That's one from super early this year. One of my favorite kind of aggressive releases. Yeah.
Next up for me is The Briefly Gorgeous' debut EP, I'm Shy. Some really great like indie rock, power pop.
Yeah.
Songwriting is fantastic. Great melodies, can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. And then
Joe, take a shot every time I recommend.
Exactly. I would be out of alcohol, which I'm close to. And then my last suggestion here, or shout out, I should say, which is Basketball Divorce Court's debut record, Rebound. If you love some like shouty post punk, some like Idols type kind of beat, you should check this one out. We were lucky to have them come in here on, I believe, April Fool's Day, in the middle of a blizzard, while Katie moved to the Twin Cities. You should. It's a great record. It's a fun band that I should see more of, really.
Yeah, definitely love them. The last record I want to shout out is Wellow Waters, The Friction I Demand. It's a really beautiful ambient singer-songwriter, folk record, chamber pop. Very beautiful instrumentation, a lot of horns and harmonies and vocals. It's a very beautiful release that I think has a lot to say. That's a good headphones record. Like, sit down with that one.
Yeah.
Also, just one quick shout out the 2 Zora singles from this year.
Yeah.
Fastlane especially just came out right before we recorded this about a week or so ago. That song rocks. Just check out Zora's newest music, and sounds like there's cool stuff on the way too.
I do have one more that I didn't realize was from this year.
Oh, word!
Because again, this year was a
blur.
Just a blur. This was the first year I didn't keep a planner, and that's probably why I'm so disorganized. Which is Window Seat by Spaceport, the debut album.
Oh yeah,
I didn't realize that this was this year. I thought this was the end of last year.
Yeah.
Which is like a fun kind of bedroom pop, in the best way possible. Sometimes I feel like the moniker bedroom pop has a weird disdain with it.
I feel like there's haters.
Some haters. Sometimes for good reason. Not with Spaceport.
They're great.
Or this record. Hey Neighbor is like one of my favorite songs. It's just that fuzzy, warm, synthy, great music, and you should go give that one a listen. So I teased this at the top of our show here today, to use radio terms, but we do have some announcements coming up, which is we're going to be doing a newsletter. I know people have kind of missed our written portions of Your Coffee, and that's kind of our
maybe
our
that's something we're just extrapolating from the people that are emailing us, because people that send emails are probably more invested in the written word.
I know some people that we've talked to, have been like,
we've seen at shows. And, so there's, because what we kind of want to start to make up for is how much music is out there that we don't have the time or availability to do a live session with, or to spend a ton of time listening to, but still want to find an excuse to kind of engage with it and to spend time with it and to share it with other people in the community, and just kind of bring that back. And Blogspot isn't really the best place to do it anymore, so we're gonna experiment with some email and some other written forms, and we're gonna be launching that. We're
launching a newsletter. It'll be hopefully monthly is our goal. A couple of releases a month or from previous months to talk about. I know we burned ourselves out in the first 3 years of Your Coffee.
Yeah.
We were covering music daily or weekly, sometimes 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Including full reviews.
Yeah.
And like for something where we, have to, I mean, people out there know when you're also working, you're also doing other projects. I think 2020 kind of killed us a little bit. A lot of places we're not unique to that, but we want to bring that back because we want to help highlight some of the bands we can't fit into a podcast. Sometimes we can't, there's no reason to bring someone in for a single.
Yeah, for just one song, or sometimes we feel like we've missed a window on, this release came out like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It'd be, I don't know if they're going to want to talk about this anymore. If we want to have them do an interview, they'll find ways to share the stuff, get more local music in people's ears.
Exactly. And we want to write, because I think there's still a hole there. Obviously, Melodic Noise and like Minneapolis Lens and some of our other kind of peers are filling those gaps that we found when we started Your Coffee in 2017, 2018. But we want to kind of go back to our roots in a way that's sustainable for us. So expect that. We'll have a
without
website.
Abandoning, especially like live sessions and other things that have filled that void for us. And filled that kind of creative space.
Exactly. Expect a ton of live sessions as always. It's crazy to think we've had 9 this year.
Yeah.
Like out of 12 months, we've fit 9 bands in there. We're hoping to continue that.
They've all been here.
They've all been here, and we haven't traveled at all for those. We are booking for those in 2024. So people who are out there, if you want to play in our basement, you can do so. Just send us an email, earcoffee@gmail.com, or send us a DM on any of our social medias. On top of that, we have compilation tapes, and t-shirts. So if you want to buy those, we'll be putting a website together because Bandcamp destroys any digital sales if you sell merch, physical merch.
Is also going away in not a good direction in general.
Yes, so we want to try and separate that. You can have digital releases as well. We're hoping to be more digital when it comes to our live sessions as well. So stay tuned for that. We haven't figured that one out yet. House shows might be a thing in the future.
There's a non-zero chance.
We're going to do at least one next year.
So help us God.
So help us God. Everyone's on board.
Hopefully another birthday show.
We've been welcome back to the Cedar. Thank you to everyone who's come out to those.
Yeah,
I'm already thinking
really
about
wonderful.
bands we want to book for those.
Yeah.
What else do we want to do for next year?
Patreon.
The Patreon. I didn't think about that. I drank a quarter bottle of tequila.
And I'm high.
That's next. If you love what we do and want to support us, we have a Patreon coming. We don't have a ton of rewards coming with that because we haven't figured out what exactly, but it'll be like a $1 to $2 a month kind of situation.
Just kind of help us support gear costs, travel costs,
utilities to have bands down here, concrete to fill the hole in my floor that our landlord doesn't want to.
Yeah, we got to fix the hole to hell.
Shouts out the hole in our basement.
Shouts it out. Yeah.
We've fixed it once. But we're going to do that. At most you'll be getting live sessions and maybe some podcasts early. It gives us an excuse to do those in advance as opposed to
discount on any purchases on if you want to pick up a shirt, we'll probably no shipping, 50% off. We'll drive it to you.
But yeah, so we're excited to kind of continue Ear Coffee into 2024. So we're excited to continue doing everything, kind of bring back the things that made Ear Coffee what it is today.
Yeah,
we really want to connect with a lot of the younger bands that are coming up. There's so many bands started in 2020 during the pandemic that
even 2021, 2022.
Exactly.
They're already
that we've kind of missed out on.
Playing the main room,
we missed out on them, but we want to be part of that. We want to continue being what we are, which is loving underground music and giving a spotlight to those who don't get that spotlight.
Yeah.
So
anyways, you can, we're really grateful for
everything,
all the support over the year.
You bought a ticket to see our shows. You watched a live session, listened to this podcast. It's insane to think about that.
Downvoted my existence.
Yes, like thousands of people have listened to us, which is an insane statement to make.
Stop it. No, actually don't stop.
Don't stop.
Please don't. Thank you again. We'll see you later.
The Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @Ear Coffee. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.